right after I was crowned Miss South Carolina, I had to get my wardrobe. So I went to this beauty pageant shop. I sat by this lady. She's so sweet. She was a grandmother. I saw her daughter or granddaughter. I thought, go back to get fitted for a pageant, apparently. She said, that's my grandbaby. That's my grandbaby. Guess what? She's the cucumber queen. I said, well, that's very green. I mean, what do you say? Oh, honey, but she's going to be in a big old pageant. That's all we can think about. She's going to be competing for the coveted title of Miss Fresh Fruit and Vegetable. Of course, I had just been on television Saturday night. I just won the pageant, and she leans over and says, you see that beauty pageant on TV Saturday night? I hadn't seen it. So I thought, I'll just say, no, ma'am. So I told her, and she said, you ain't seen it, huh? No, ma'am. I'll tell you what. That girl that won, she's ugly. And she can't sing neither. I was so embarrassed. I just thought I'd tap her on the leg and say, oh, well, she can't cook either. So I tapped her on the leg. I said, she can't cook either. She said, she is pitiful. Then the granddaughter comes back in, oh, Grandmama, do you know who this is? She just won the pageant Saturday night on TV. She's Miss South Carolina. That woman's face was white. She looked at me and said, oh, Lord, can I ask you a question? I thought she was going to apologize. She said, you ain't judging the Miss Fresh Fruit and Vegetable pageant, are you? Well, y'all, I'm so excited. You are going to love our guest today. I hope I pronounced her name right. Theresa Krallinger. Theresa, I got to bring you in and pronounce your last name. Sorry. I had the Hummel. That's correct, right? The Hummel part, the middle name, like the Hummel thing. Yes, she's nodding. I muted her, but I'm going to unmute her so she can correct me. We always just have fun on this. Let me just tell you a little bit about Theresa. I met her, again, I go back to NSA Comedy Night. That was like a treasure trove of funny people. And I met Theresa. Y'all, she has won an Emmy. She's a comedian. She's a well-respected senior trainer, professional, and a performance consultant. Now, that sounds like a lot, but this girl's in it to win it. Because as we speak, she did a comedy show last night. She's using a tablet or her phone to beam herself in. She's got a consultant job later, and she squeezed us in because, again, this girl's busy. She is a frequently requested speaker on topics of leadership, career management, organizational culture, and workplace communication. Now, see, everybody needs that. She's past president of the Greater Philadelphia chapter of the Association of Talent Development and is a past president of the local Toastmasters Club. For 17 years, she served as a non-credit faculty at Temple University. That is impressive. She has been a featured speaker in numerous regional and international conferences, and she won that Emmy in 2019 for her work on the PBS talk show Counterculture. All right, y'all get ready. This is going to be super duper fun. Hello.
Hey, Jane, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so embarrassed that I can't pronounce your last name.
It's all right. You know, that's why, if you go to my comedy page, it's Theresa HK, Theresa HK Comedy, because nobody can pronounce my last name. So I got married later in life, so I held on to my maiden name and added my husband's name. It's just too much. So Theresa HK is good enough.
All right. I love that. Well, I sure hope that we can keep this communication in the future going, because when you sat there in the back of the room at NSA, National Speakers, I always refer to that, we're all members, and I watched you watch the crowd. And I thought, this girl is, I say girl, this girl's going to be good. And you got up there. Yeah, I'm taking it any way I can get it these days. I said, she's going to be good. She is taking in the audience and gets this. She's pro. So I loved it. You were hilarious. I'm
Thank
telling
you.
you. So
I got
you go ahead.
I gotta say, Jane, so that was a 2.5 hour show. For anybody that was not there, it was a 2.5 hour show. And I was the last comic on that show. So I had 2 hours and 20 minutes to watch other people make us laugh. That's a long time. It's just a
Yeah, and to keep your momentum and your thoughts, and not to sit there and go, oh, I was going to say something similar. Oh, I better not do that, and let it get in your head. So, and also, Theresa, I wanted to circle back and talk about that you knew Jeannie. Can you share a little bit about that with the folks?
when I met Jeannie, it was a couple years ago at Influence. It was my very first Influence. We were actually in Las Vegas. It was just when we were coming back from COVID, so we had a much smaller crowd than we usually do. And I was walking over to where they have the registration table, and there she was. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's her. So, of course, I boldly walk up and I said, oh my goodness, I am so excited to meet you. I have admired you for years. And she was just so gracious and humble and lovely. And I immediately just loved her even more. And then we had the honor that at that Influence of watching her perform. And she gave a wonderful performance at Influence. And then sadly we lost her not long after that.
No, six
But
weeks or so.
I am so grateful that I got to see her and I got to personally meet her. It was just an honor.
Yeah, she was amazing, and everybody misses her. I'll tell you what. So, in the spirit of Jeannie, is the reason why we're sharing this, because there are people that have been greatly influenced by her. But let's go to last night. I already asked you to do this. So, you did a set last night at a comedy club.
I did.
Well, can you share a little bit of what brought the house down? And I know it brought the house down because you're just incredibly funny.
It's funny. I have been doing this little add-on to my set since we had the pandemic. So I created another several minutes that I add on. So I open with that, and it's still getting laughs. So I remember in March of 2020, that Friday, when we were told we're going to have to hunker down for a couple weeks, and we all thought, oh my goodness, 2 weeks, good times, right? Good times. And I still can't believe the first thing we ran for was toilet paper. I mean, if you need 140 rolls of toilet paper for a 2-week lockdown, you probably should have seen a doctor long before COVID-19. I'm just saying. And had I known in March that was going to be my last time in a restaurant for months, I'd have ordered dessert. I just didn't know. Probably the dumbest thing I bought in 2020 was a 2020 planner. Not very helpful. 2019, they told us stay away from negative people. 2020, they said stay away from positive people. 2019, if your friend called and said, listen, I have a case of corona, you grabbed a bag of limes and went to their house, right? Not in 2020. And I remember everybody was washing their hands. Everybody, I hope you're still washing your hands. I wash my hands so much I could see the 1981 history exam notes on my hand. That's how much I wash my hands. Crazy. And sanitizer, I'm still using the hand sanitizer. I've used so much hand sanitizer. When I pee, I clean the toilet at the same time.
That was the line that killed me.
And I'll wrap up with this. They said we could go to the grocery store and all you need are a mask and gloves. That's it, a mask and gloves. Well, they lied because everyone else was fully dressed. I'm just saying. So there you go. A little pandemic humor.
I love it. But I tell you what, that line about the sanitizer, oh my gosh, you are so right about that.
You were lathering in it.
Oh, and then the toilet paper thing. It was all about people hoarding. I didn't know that.
It was.
And I remember going through and looking and going, there's the toilet paper. I was so shocked. And I thought, well, what else can I use? And I thought, well, coffee filters. I mean, I could use that because I use paper towels for coffee filters when I run out. So why not use the coffee filter? It was nuts. I felt
It
like
was an insane time. There's so much we could poke fun at. Like in the beginning, I remember my husband coming back from the grocery store and wiping everything down with a Clorox wipe, taking off his clothes as he came in from the store and immediately throwing them in the laundry. Like we just didn't know. We didn't know.
No, that's true. We definitely, and let me tell you this. I mean, we planned this nice river cruise, and it's going to be nice. And I can't believe my husband's going to go. So I'm on the little website, and it says the words of horror. Please bring your vaccination card, and if you don't have a card, please be revaccinated. I think that ain't gonna happen. And so you should see my vaccination card. It's been through the wash. You can't even read it. And I called the doctor's office. I said, do y'all have a copy of any of this? They went, no, we didn't. So I don't know what we're going to do. But, so people are still and this is, I would say more of an older crowd cruise.
Sure.
So I was texting everybody going, do you have your vaccination card? I thought that was, history, but apparently in some places it's not. So man, it's still rearing its ugly head. Well, Theresa, tell me about, how you got into the business of the comedy, which you are so great at. And I'm sure you are equally as fabulous in what you do in your other business, the counterculture, the consulting. Tell us the story, the journey.
Yeah. So this was almost, I guess, 22 years ago. I had just left a corporate job. So I had been in a full-time corporate job for many, many years, and I had decided to go out on my own. So I actually have some kind of free time, right? So there was a local Montgomery County Community College that offered an 8-week stand-up comedy course for $89. It was 5 minutes from my house. It was reasonably priced. And I didn't think, it never entered my mind that I would actually do stand-up comedy. But I took the course because I do a lot of speaking, a lot of training. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to really have some formal comedy techniques that I can use to beef up my speaking and training? So I sign up, I go to this course. There's 20 of us in the class. We go through the 8 weeks. So you have to write your own stuff. It's hard. It's hard. So we're writing our stuff, we're polishing it, and we're tightening it up. So by the 8th week, there's 9 of us left. 9 of us. Because you know what? It's hard, Jane. Mm-hmm. It is hard. So then we have a graduation show. So of course, we all invite our friends and relatives who are amazed that we are going to get on stage and tell jokes. And this huge supportive crowd. And we got to do 5 to 7 minutes. Well, I got laughs. And I'm like, how about that? So I took a second course, the advanced comedy course, where now I'm expanding my writing to 10 to 15 minutes. Because once you have about 15 minutes, you can start to MC comedy shows. At that time, you get paid $25. And, you can buy lunch, maybe dinner at a reasonably priced place. So got the advanced comedy. And from that point forward, I've just stayed with it. I still do a lot of MC work. I love MCing shows. I sometimes feature. I don't headline. I don't have 45 minutes, if I'm honest with you, but I've stuck with it, and it is awesome. The circle of friends, the opportunity to get on stage and make people laugh and get paid for it. So that's how it all started, Jane.
I love it. So when the PBS show was so interesting to me, tell me about that. The counterculture. What was that all about?
So, and this has a comedy connection. So my friend Grover Silcox, who is wonderful, and he is a media professional out here in the Philadelphia area. He was working for PBS, and he suggested, you know what, we should do a talk show in a diner. And so
nice.
No, it's a great, what a great idea. Well, they said yes. So he called me. He said, you're not going to believe it. I submitted this idea. We're going to do a talk show in a diner. We have this wonderful diner locally, and we are going to tape the shows at the diner. I said, well, you know what? If you need guests, you let me know, because I'll help you with guests. And he said, Theresa, that's why I'm calling. I want you to formally book the guests for the show.
Oh, nice.
I know. So here I am, part of a TV show. So what was beautiful, I got to learn all about a TV production. I got to learn interview skills from one of the finest. Grover is one of the best interviewers I've ever seen, and I have absorbed all of that. So 2.5 years we did the show. We were nominated for several Emmys. We actually won 2 for the show. So
Oh
2019,
my.
2021, we got Emmys. So I have an Emmy that sits on a shelf behind my desk, and I'm
Oh, wow.
yeah, it
That's
was great.
incredible. So, in your mind, when you look to see how sensitive, I say that loosely, people are now about like I have standard Southern humor, and I was booked up in Minneapolis, and it was a nice crowd, but I told a story that happened to a cousin of mine that's about the sweetest woman in the world that teaches inmates children. So these kids have probably heard everything in the world.
Yeah.
And so she said, and she's so sweet. She talks like this. She said, well, I came back from spring break and I was talking to my little inmate kids. They're so sweet, but they've heard a lot of bad things. And she said, I just said, oh, boys and girls, I just couldn't believe it. I was eating breakfast and there was a snake wrapped around the leg of my kitchen table. And one of the little boys said, well, what did you do, Miss Walker? She said, well, I ran to get the hoe. And he said, well, what did she do? See, I think that's funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, when I told it, because it's a cultural thing. So I told it, I tell it in the South sometimes, you have your go-tos. And everybody laugh. So I told it up in Minneapolis. And out of the whole crowd of people, one person, I'm offended. So what do you say to something like that? I mean, I say to myself, I better stay my fanny in the South, and hush. So how would you advise
I would
me?
not tell you that, Jane. I would not. I mean, one, I'd say know your audience as best you can, and I think we're both professionals and we do our best to know our audience. But I would also say, don't censor yourself. I think we are in a time where people, and not all people, but some people are looking to be offended. And if you're looking to be offended, guess what? You'll find it. You'll find it. And we can't help that.
No.
So we have to be smart, know our audience. Let me tell you, I do comedy at a lot of Catholic fundraisers. I work with a guy out here, Joe Conklin, who's wonderful. He's on our sports radio out here, and he draws a big crowd. So we'll get several hundred. I can't even tell you the number of gymnasiums that I have performed in proudly with Mr. Conklin. So it's a Catholic crowd. It is. So I have to be mindful that even though I'm in a gymnasium and this is comedy, it's a Catholic crowd. There are certain things that I shouldn't step on. But I will go to the line, Jane. I will go to the line. Sometimes I do something to test the waters up front. One of the things, in fact, I still have it on today. I do a joke where my husband and I have been married for 24 years, and he bought me a wonderful gift. And I show them this ring. And of course, with the spotlight, it's all sparkly and beautiful. And I said,
oh, that is gorgeous.
Isn't that a cool ring? So, and I let people know it's cubic zirconia, which, as we all know, is a fake diamond. So I gave him fake sex. Okay, now, Jane, that's on the line. I don't even know if I was allowed to say this on your show.
I think that's so funny. I'm sorry, but I love that.
But I will tell you, that is my test the waters joke. Because if I feel the butt cheeks clench and suck the air out of the room, I'm like, well, erase. Because I know there's a lot of other stuff. And I don't consider myself a dirty comic at all. No. But if there's a sensitive crowd, if you watch faces like, ooh, great, I'm just like, all right, you ain't doing that one. You're not doing that one.
That's very smart, though, Theresa. You have to have that little what if, we got to see what these people, I probably told this before, but I was riding down Highway 17 and I remembered that I was putting gas in my car and I looked and there was a lingerie shop called Bad Kitty. And so I probably told this already on this show, but I'm going to tell you this thing for people that maybe haven't heard it. But my son dares me all the time. And I love to embarrass my children. It's just such a gift. After all the years they've embarrassed you. I have a child that graduated from college at 33. And he told me, he said, Mom, I finished college in 4 presidents. I went, oh. And Obama had 2 terms. And so I mean, I don't even know what this child does for a living. I really don't. I know he goes out at night and does something on the computer. And I heard him the other day. Somebody said, how tall are you? He said 6'4", but in heels, I'm 6'7". I'm going, what does he do? But so anyway, Bad Kitty. So I'm putting gas in my car and my son said, I dare you to go into Bad Kitty. I went, all right. So I walked in there, little naughty lingerie. And he was like, Mom, I can't believe you're in Bad Kitty. And I said, he said, I dare you to buy something. Well, my 82-year-old friend was getting married. And I thought, I'll buy her something funny. Well, the only thing tame and funny was edible underwear. And so I bought it. And then right after that, we went to see Mr. Rogers. And I had that little bag in my pocketbook and I got hungry. So I just started gnawing on the little Bad Kitty drawers. And then I knew he was going to go, Mom. And he said, and I thought this was the funny line. This is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. We're not in Sex and the City. And I thought, that's funny. Then I spoke to 400 Baptist women in Jekyll Island and asked the meeting planner, can I tell that? And sometimes, you know, as you know, in the convention world, you do run things by just to make sure. Yeah. Well, honey, I told that thing, they were knee slapping, snorting, carrying on. And this woman came up to me with a walker and had the tennis balls and I imitate her. And she looked at me and she said, ma'am. And I thought, oh Lord, I've stepped in it now. And I'm going to have to apologize to her. And she said, ma'am, you know that story you done told about Bad Kitty and them edible drawers? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, tastes just like fruit roll-ups, don't it? I thought, now that's the story about the little Baptist chick. So you're absolutely right. And I know I've told that, but I think that's one of the funniest stories because I've spoken to the Amish. Have you ever spoken to the Amish community by chance?
Gosh, we could take a deep dive on the Amish. I got good friends that are Amish. I got a whole part of my comedy set that's about the Amish. But go ahead, Jane.
No. I want to hear your Amish thing because those people you talk about wanting to laugh, they crave laughter. I think they just work so hard. Go ahead and tell me your Amish thing. I can't wait to hear this.
So I have an Amish family that I'm friends with. They have actually had me do comedy in their kitchen twice.
Now, and no lights with candles.
Right. Well, you know what? They cheat. They have lights.
Yes,
they're
they do.
Powered. They do. They cheat. But in my set, so we have. If you've ever been to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, they have crazy town names.
Yes.
So they've got like Intercourse, real town.
Blue Balls.
Look at that Blue Ball. Bird in Hand, and I always point to a guy in the audience. Have you been there, Bird in Hand? He's embarrassed. He's been there. And then I have another town, G Spot. Men can never find that town, can they, ladies? So that's where I question. There is no town named G Spot, but there you go. But we do a whole joke about that, and I also have some stuff about the Mennonites because we've got a big Mennonite community. Mennonites are like Amish light. They wanted to be Amish, but they couldn't quite commit to all the rules. They'll say, all right, I'll do the Abe Lincoln facial hair, but not the pilgrim clothes and the horse and buggies. We're not going to go that route. So, but yeah, I've got a ton of Amish stuff. But you are so right. They love to laugh. They want to laugh. But I've had to really think through my set because one, I can't cross a line because I don't want to offend them.
Oh yeah.
Two, it has to be relevant for them. You know, like there's things that we'll laugh at because we're in a modern world that don't resonate for them because their world is very different. I'll tell you what they liked in that COVID set. They loved the joke about I went to the grocery store. All you need is a mask and gloves.
Oh, but yeah.
I never saw them laugh so hard as at that joke when I said everyone else was fully dressed. And you know, they're all picturing me naked in a grocery store. So that's a damn shame. But there you go.
I know I was booked to speak to a group of Amish, and so I was in Lancaster, and the
Okay.
and the bureau called me, and they're friends of mine, and they said, Jane, okay, you keep this clean. I thought, when have I not kept my comedy clean and my humor and my stories? And then as I'm talking to them, I'm driving through that straight road. Me keep it clean. Are you kidding me? Have you seen the names of these towns? And so, but I mean, I had the best time with that group. They were so much fun and I loved it. And it's funny, I mean, I've not spoken to mortuaries, to society. I mean, I've got some funny funeral home stories, but have you ever spoken to? But see, what I'm saying is, you would think the people that you have to
Yeah,
struggle with, they're the ones that are the easiest. They said that the
absolutely.
funeral home crowd, they are hilariously fun.
Well, if
I've never
anybody
spoken
needs a
to.
good laugh, right?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I've got a there's a woman I see. Normally I would be having this meeting or the show at my husband's office. It's in the funeral home. Can you believe that? Our town is so small. And he's one of his companies is New York Life he works with, and I call it New York Life or Death because I'm in the funeral home with the funeral home ladies, 92. And honey, she's good. She still puts them down. She stepped back a little bit, but she's so funny. And she told me the other day there was a wake and there was an older man and this younger man and this woman walking up to the casket and the guy's holding the hand of this young girl, looks at the deceased and says, I'd like to have your daughter's hand in marriage, talking to the corpse. And Betty said, what do you make of that? And I said, girl, don't you know that dead man at one time? Another said, boy, over my dead body. So I don't know about you. Where do you get your comedy? Because it's rich.
Do you know what? It is all around us. It is
Yes.
all around us. And Jane, I'll find it sometimes in conversation where we're having a good laugh, and I'll say, that's a bit. That's a bit. And I have a little notepad that I keep, and it's called Teresa's Potential Comedy Gems. That's what I've named my notepad. So they're not quite a gem yet, but they are potential. So I write the little ideas down, and then every once in a while, I'll get some time, and I'm in that zone, and I just start to flesh out some new content, and then you play with your comedy friends with it, because I have a couple friends that are just tremendous writers, and they'll help me punch it up. So, but yeah, it's all
That's
around us.
incredible.
Yeah, it's all around us.
It is truly. I don't know if you've ever said, anybody want to share a funny story with me? Now you have to go through and go, to about 99%, but then there's that 1% that you just want to kiss them. Have you ever had that happen? Somebody come up to you after you do something and say, let me tell you something funny.
Yes. Yes. Or here's some jokes for you, as if like I'm harvesting them from the people that I meet. Here's some jokes for you. Here's a good one. I will say I had an 81-year-old aunt who she was actually a cousin. She wasn't an aunt, but she was so much older. She seemed like an aunt. She would tell me wonderful, wonderful jokes. Some of them that were too dirty for me to tell in my Catholic shows. But I would harvest jokes from Bernice because Bernice had good jokes. She
Yeah.
had good jokes. But
Yeah.
for the most part, no, I don't typically get good jokes from strangers.
Well, I had a woman come up to me when I was speaking in Kentucky, and she told me a very funny story that I haven't used it yet. I might use it today because I got to speak later today. But it was potty training her son, and it was so funny. They taught him to go outside on a tree, and he was very ADHD. And she said she went to Walmart, and they had a big Keebler forest display. And honey, she heard the sound of liquid hitting that cardboard tree and about died. And he's going, Mommy, look, and it goes on. And it's funny how I've sort of, professionally fabricated it. But she told me one story. I can't tell it, and I wish I could. But just to say that this same child had a speech impediment and sitting on Santa Claus's knee, and they had him in therapy. And she said she couldn't hear what he was asking for Santa from Santa for Christmas, but she saw Santa go like this. Some stories you just got to tell it like it is, and you can't You can't change it at all. It's just not funny if you try to say a different word.
Absolutely. I think, again, that's knowing your audience. Sometimes you can feel that you have bonded with them and they love you, and you can maybe take a path that you wouldn't ordinarily take because you've got them. They love you and they're going to view you in a good light. Others, you can feel it. Yeah. And you tread a little bit lighter. I love that you have some kid humor. Kids are the best source of humor. They
Oh, they
truly
are.
are. Like, because they have honest observation. My friend had a beer distributor that would come by, drop off cases of beer and pick up the used bottles. And the little kid goes, "Daddy's juice, Daddy's juice." Just like simple things like that. So, and he's like, "Yeah, that's Daddy's juice." That kid's observation is wonderful and innocent and funny.
Oh,
And funny.
yeah. That's what Jeannie said to me when I was trying to join national speakers, and I, was expecting my daughter Caroline, who's now 33. And I was, of course I had a 2-year-old and I was getting ready to have another child. And Jeannie said, "Oh, that's such great material." I said, "No, it's not. I'm tired. I can't find the humor in it." She said, "You got to find the humor. You got to look
Yes.
for it." She was very good at that. I loved some of the things when Jeannie, we always say this, but she was working on material the night that she was called to be with the Lord. I mean, she just working so hard on new bits. It's a constant thing, isn't it, though, Theresa? It's
It is.
constant.
It is. And you got to keep it fresh. Now, that I will say, there's some things that I've been doing for years, but I still love them. And I got a really good tip from Tommy Moore. Tommy Moore is a comic who's been around a very long time, and he watched me do my set, and he said, "Theresa, you've been doing some of these jokes a while, haven't you?" And I said, "I have." And he said, "You're going too fast. You're going too fast." He said, "I want you to love the words." Love the words. Because he said, this audience is hearing those jokes for the first time. You've heard them many times. And when you love the words, you're going to
Yeah.
deliver it as if it's the first time. One of the best pieces of advice I got, because even though I do bring in fresh content, I've been doing that Amish Towns joke for over 20 years.
Yeah, they'll never get sick of that because they're,
Right.
relevant.
Unless I have some joke that I had to pull out because I had a joke about the old Pope. This is so sad. I mean, by his last days, he really was not looking well. And I said, this is almost, but you got to keep it fresh. Now, the COVID stuff, I'm going to be able to ride that, I think, for another year. And then I might have to retire that because I don't know if that's going to be as funny in another year.
Well, that's funny you say that because I'll go back to Jeannie. She asked me, because we were both in Miss America. She was North Carolina, I was South Carolina. And she said, "Do you tell any of the pageant stuff?" And because she had a hilarious story about a girl twirling a baton in a pageant she emceed. And I could just see, because some of these girls, they just don't have any talent, bless their hearts, But so, yeah, I think it's an evergreen story about this girl, this contestant. I was an observer as Miss Charleston, and this girl was Miss Upstate, and I loved her. And this was back in the 80s with the blown out Aussie freeze hair. You remember all that?
Yes,
and she,
yes. I still think it looks good.
Well, in the South, it's just not jacked up to Jesus. We say, "Are you sick? Are you okay? You need a hug?" I mean, yesterday I was at the beauty shop and I put this stuff in my hair. It's called Wow. I gave it to my guy, and I watched it in the mirror just start doing this number. I said, "It's like one of them chia things." It started doing this, and this woman said, "I want that." And so I gave her a squirt. We love big hair in the South. We feel like it brings us closer to the Lord. The higher the hair, it's sad. But I love this girl, Susan. She just blown out chandelier earrings. And I saw her in rehearsal do her talent, and she was a tap dancer, and she's darling. And then this was rehearsal for Gown, and it was Friday night. And so, I saw her walk down the carpeted stairs, which is so stupid, carpeted stairs at a pageant. Oh. And she and I trained at the funeral home. Can you believe that? We both trained for beauty pageant stuff at a funeral home. I have a whole thing on that. Somebody said, why in the world did you train in leotards and tights at a funeral home? I said, because I knew it's going to be real stiff competition. And that's my little line I use. And so Susan was brilliant, Miss Upstate. And she walks down the stairs. I had the Stephen Urick designer dress. It looked like somebody plugged her into a light socket. She was just twinkling. I know that was an expensive dress. And so I went up to her and I said, she walked down and did her evening gown speech that we both learned at the funeral home, And I said, Susan, you're just beautiful. She said, I want to get in the top 10 because we were aired in 7 states. It's a big deal down here, And she said, my daddy spent a lot of money on this dress. Well, Friday night, the last night she could get points. Good Lord, that spotlight hit her and the heel of that designer shoe got stuck in that Steve Urick dress. And she tumbled like a ball. And I say stuff flew out of the top of that dress God forgot to give her that she bought at Walmart. I mean, I know where to get those things. And the earrings started flying off like missiles. I mean, I can go into the whole descriptive thing. But here's the point. She was down on the floor, looked like Cousin It with the hair, Aussie Freeze hair standing up. She couldn't even see. The split was all messed up in the dress. And she just shuffled to the mic, and we were all going, oh, no, like that. And honey, she forgot her speech. She had a beautiful evening gown speech. Well, she slung that head back. She said, well, y'all don't forget me. Didn't I have a great trip down here? And then people kind of chuckled. And she said, don't forget me. I'm Miss Upstate. And she walked off the stage and her grandmama clapped and her mama clapped. And then it rippled and the girl got a standing ovation for falling down the stairs. And here's the point of that story, though. I don't remember. And the next night, the MC said, and the last contestant to be considered for the title of Miss South Carolina is Miss Upstate. And everybody went crazy. Because here's the point. And so I know you do this in your training. You tell a funny story and you say, yes, she fell down, but the most important part is she got up. And I said, in my mind, she will always be the queen of recovery.
Yes.
How do you recover? So those are the kinds of things. And so tell me, in your line of work, when you consult and you help folks, tell me what you do to connect the comedy with the takeaway, because I love that kind of stuff.
It's funny because I cannot help but weave comedy into the work I do. But I will say, I think I get more work because of that. We've all sat through some really not so entertaining corporate training. Show of hands. How many of you have sat through some not so entertaining corporate training? So weaving it in, and it's on the fly, Jane. It's doesn't always have to be prepared. Somebody asks a question and you bring up something funny. So I do DISC over and over again. It's a model of behavior styles that helps managers and everyone get along with other people. And I've got some crazy funny things about each of the 4 DISC styles that helps make that more interesting and engaging. And of course, at the moment, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, and I can't. I wish I had prepared something for you. But you got to make them laugh. You got to make them laugh. There's a book a friend of mine wrote, Donnie Tamlin, called Laugh and Learn. Laugh and Learn. It's probably been out for a couple decades now. But there have been studies that show when people are laughing and they're relaxed, they retain more from the workshop. So if they're having fun, we're making them laugh, not just to entertain them, but it is going to actually help them carry more stuff with them out of the classroom. So it is to everyone's benefit. Take an $89 comedy class at your community college, because if you speak or train for a living, it's immensely helpful. I know you know this, Jane. I'm preaching to the
yeah. I'm on the board of our community college. I wish they offered a course like that, and I'd love to go. And you got to have somebody good teach it, that's seasoned in the world of see, as a humorist. And so that what Jeannie always said this too. Humorists tell stories, maybe a story within a story. Yes. I'm so impressed with the quick wit of the comedian who can just zing a line out there and do a callback or do a, you know, something so funny. It had Dave Caperton on. Remember Dave? He was at Comedy Night.
Yes. He's very good.
Oh, he's so funny. He was my guest last week. And he talked about his elderly mother who just talked, and it's just be so funny in the South. I said, you got to expound on this on Bible terms. Like they say, mother, are you hungry? Thank you, Jesus. Oh, that means she likes some soup. Or mother, do you feel like amen? I mean, she had different, and I said, you could do a whole thing on little church terms that mean something else. I said, Dave, you could have really fun with that. And so it's nice to be in the presence of somebody who has a comedy head, who can
Yes.
say, oh, let me, and Patrick Henry's a really good, Patrick organized this. I'll call Patrick sometime and he'll say, oh, Jane, here's the line. Because the beginning and the end are
Yeah.
so huge to me. How you
Yes.
start it. And like you said, when you get people laughing, a lot of times in your head, you start going faster and faster. And then you step on your laugh lines. That's my biggest problem.
Yeah, well, speaking is a lot easier than comedy. In comedy, and I don't know if people even realize this. I hate to overanalyze something, but if you're watching a comedian and they're getting less than 6 laughs a minute, they're probably not that good a comic. You want to get 6 or more laughs a minute. So a homework assignment is go out on YouTube or wherever, find a clip of a good comic, like a Jerry Seinfeld, somebody who's classic. Count the number of laughs they get. Watch a 5-minute clip, count the number of laughs. I guarantee you somebody like a Seinfeld is probably getting anywhere between 8 and 11 laughs a minute.
Yeah.
That's insane. So for speakers, Jane, if we get one hearty laugh every 3 to 5 minutes, we are rock stars. We are amazing.
That is true.
You got to have a good story, and you can't step on your punchline.
And you know what? I'm still thinking of funny lines. Like the first time I called my husband to be, and we only had one date, and we were engaged in a week. It was crazy. And my business manager, I was Miss South Carolina at the time, and I had called him to judge the local Miss Charleston pageant while I was preparing for Miss South Carolina. And I just knew he was a farmer, and he's very left brain. I don't mean to take off on Jeannie's left brain turn for Jerry, but when I called him, and I was kind of like, I knew he was kind of a cute guy. And I said, well, what have you been doing? And this is his answer: artificially inseminating my beef cattle. And the first thing I said was, well, do you smoke a cigarette when you get through? I mean, what is this?
Is it good for you?
Yeah. And so I thought, I've said that line a couple of times. And again, you don't want to offend anybody by saying, do you smoke a cigarette? And so then somebody said to me, I was speaking somewhere in Arkansas, and I just was telling the story. And a very funny woman, when I said, yeah. And then when I was told I could sit by him at this banquet, and my business manager was talking to me, Thomas, how long said you could sit by him at that banquet you're going to sing for, after I'd had the conversation with him, artificially inseminating his cattle. And I kind of chuckled, and I said, well, Rita, did you tell him I'm dating an astronaut? Which I was. And she said, oh, he's dating somebody. He's in a relationship. I said, yeah, with a herd of cows. Well,
how can you compete with that?
Yeah, I'm done. Too many heifers to compete with. But he actually was dating the girl that beat me at Miss America. But so then I thought, my line I thought was, I don't lose twice, But the line that the girl gave me was, yeah, he's in a relationship with his cows. And I thought, I'm going to use that. So as you know, lines are constantly evolving with an evergreen story. You just got to open your head and go, oh my gosh, that's funny. Thank you for saying that.
Yes. And having other people who have that good comedic mind see it through a different lens and add to it. So that Amish Towns joke, right? That Amish Towns joke, I was very literal when I first did that joke. So I went up and I thought, well, they're funny on their own. So we've got Blue Ball, Bird in Hand, Virginville, all these towns. So when I got done, the guy who ran the room came up to me. This was Tony in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'll never forget this. He said, Theresa, come here. You should add G-spot G-spot to your joke as a town. And I'm like, but Tony, that's not a real town. And Tony's like, I know, but it's funny. And I'm like, oh, see, I'm so corporate. I'm very
Yeah.
kind of so, but I am with comedians who, I don't know, it's like an open mind. They see the possibilities that I don't see. That is the funniest punchline that I have. But
That's
I wouldn't
funny.
have, yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it because it's not a real town. But it is
Yeah.
the perfect. And then after I say, men can never find that town, can they, ladies? There's a bunch of taglines. They just drive around and around and they won't ask directions. Even when they do find it, they don't stay long. So there was a lot that I could build off of that one suggestion.
Well, there's a funny line. You just reminded me. I used to say, and that's why Moses wandered 40 years in the desert, because he didn't ask directions. It says he wandered trying to find the promised land. I mean,
right.
that would be funny to throw in for an Amish. Some people are not like this. I've learned that. You do a biblical reference and they go, huh? Not everybody is a biblical person.
That is true.
Or gets religious humor. And I've told some funny stories about our church. And people, you are so right. That's when I send out a questionnaire. I get into the bone marrow of the crowd. I'm speaking in Florida coming up this weekend. And I mean, I did a deep dive. I want to be prepared for these ladies. How many, how old, what are they going to be wearing even? I mean, what's where's the location? What is the style of the room set? So I want to ask you two of my biggest challenges in doing a show, whether it's a comedy show or just an association or a corporate thing, is the beginner, is the starter and the finisher. Do you start with that COVID comedy? Because that's dang funny right there.
When I do any kind of speaking lately, I have started with the COVID humor. I was at the SHRM conference, the big human resource conference. Gosh, they get like 20,000 people.
Oh, Lord.
Time. And I had a breakout that was about 450 in my room. And I'm happy to speak at that conference because it's big and it's people I love. And, but they scheduled me for Friday afternoon at 4. Jane, Friday afternoon at 4.
People want to go home.
Right. So I thought, is anybody going to show up? Well, they did. And you know why they showed up? Because they need the continuing ed credits that my lecture offers. Yeah. So, but as I was thinking about it the night before, I'm going through my slides and I'm like, it's going to be 4:00. So I usually don't do comedy at the HR conference because it's an HR conference. But you know what? I took a chance. I came out. I said, listen, I am just so delighted to be here at the big SHRM conference with all of you. But it's a Friday afternoon, and I am the only thing keeping you from a night out on the town. And I thought, maybe I should open with comedy, but I don't want to offend anybody. What do you guys want? How many of you want comedy? Well, what do you think they did? Yes. Because all day they've been listening to very standard PowerPoint clicking. So I said, let's start out with a little comedy. They loved it. So it wasn't even part of my presentation. You know what I mean? But the fact that we could have some hearty laughs back to back to back for a few minutes won the love. And I learned a valuable lesson. It's okay to start with comedy. It's okay.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Because I had the love for the rest of that program. Because I can tell you, nobody else at that SHRM conference, and I know there were a lot of speakers, nobody got as many laughs as I did. Although I don't think that's what SHRM's looking for. I'm not sure.
Well, still, though, they want people to attend because that's what's been compromised with those of us who do associations, and they haven't been able to have their conferences because so many people drop their memberships and it's cheaper to go to Zoom and you don't get that kind of one-on-one feedback. So it's been slow climbing back to the calendars that we all were so excited to have. I mean, man, over a couple of days is gone, and I wouldn't go travel anyway. I didn't
Yeah.
want, I didn't know what, like you said, we didn't know what we were dealing with COVID. So
No.
it wasn't my go-to thing to hop on a plane, not knowing if I was going to die or not. We just didn't know. But it's been a little bit of a challenge because now associations are starting to get back in the groove. And then the hospitality industry, the hotel, they weren't equipped. They still don't have their people
Yes,
back.
they really don't.
It's a problem, but that's something I love. I think when I sit down, because I think we've just almost trained to be ADHD anymore. I mean, our kids watch Sesame Street and it's 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. We watch the news, 3 seconds, 3 seconds, and it trains our brain to get bored. It was supposedly the goldfish has the shortest attention span, but I think we've surpassed the goldfish now, from what I understand. And we are done. We have to have constant. So when I do my shows anymore, like I've already emailed, I'm doing a PowerPoint, and and I
Yeah.
sing. I feel like I'm everything but juggling, just to be totally entertaining. But
Yeah.
I do love, and just to be not just do straight comedy, but you do love to teach. And so when you teach, what is the main thing you see in using your comedy? What are you trying to drive home to these audiences?
One, I just want them to be engaged. Because if they're engaged, they're going to remember, they're going to learn. So just like with our keynote speeches, I try to have as many stories and jokes as I possibly can. If people are starting to bow out, I actually call it out. I'm like, I feel the love is low. And I actually use my hand. The love is low here. And they laugh a little bit. I'm like, that's all right. We're going to get the love back. And if we need to, I'll break into comedy at any point in a classroom. But for the most part, I have so many little stories that relate to each of the key concepts. That's what keeps the love, and that's what helps them remember. It will help. Remember the story she told about that? That stayed with me. That there's a story, and he's a friend of ours, Jim Smith. Dr. James.
Yeah.
He's in NSA. So he told me a story years ago, and I've borrowed it from him on Titans and Titanics. He says, you got two kinds of people in your life, Titans and Titanics. Titans lift you up. When you spend time with them, they're giving you energy. You share an idea with them, and they're thinking of ways to make that idea happen. Who you need to meet, articles you need to read. Here's a tool. Here's a website. How can I help you? And after you spend time with a Titan, you have more energy than before you were with them. Then there's Titanics. Titanics drag you down. You share an idea with a Titanic, they're giving you all the reasons why that idea is never going to work. And they can't even believe you thought of it. They're telling you about all their ailments and all the bad things going on in their life. And when you're done spending time with them, you have less energy than before you were with them. So I have two questions for you. The first question is, who are you spending your time with? The second question is, which are you? And that's
Oh
when
my
people,
gosh.
and Jane, that's when people break eye contact. And that's exactly what I say in the classroom. I'm like, this is where people break eye contact with me. That story stays with people. One, we're looking at it, particularly if you're my age. Energy management is a big thing. So I, I want to manage my energy well. And I'm thinking, who am I spending my time with? Who are my Titans and who are the Titanics? And how can I spend less time with the Titanic? But that question of which are you, man, that creates some self reflection. So,
I love that. Oh, that is
isn't that a
brilliant.
great story?
Yes, good heavens. And it's easy to remember. And that's just incredible story. So is that the closer for you, or
It's
is
it's very close to the end. So I have a keynote that is are you now I'm going to forget the whole name of it. That's because I'm on the spot and it's early in the morning. It's about, are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? That's the keynote.
mhm.
Are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? And there's a difference. So I've got a story about that. The Titans Titanics is towards the end because it's about energy management. If
Yeah.
you're playing to win, you have to manage your energy, and you can't be belly aching. So what I do after that is I have people break into either pairs or triads, and I say, look, I want you to share with a partner, a couple partners, who are you spending your time with? Who are the
Hmm.
titans in your life? Who are the Titanics? And what can you do about that? Man, that conversation is powerful.
I love that. Teresa, I want you to share how folks can get in touch with you for speaking engagements, for anything related to your business and corporate training and consulting. I love the way you've combined all of your gifts I believe God has given you into an incredible career. I mean, congratulations, you've got the
Thank
secret
you.
sauce. So tell folks how they can communicate with you, and I'll put a little URL in our time together as well.
All right. I got a bunch of websites. So high5performance.com. High Five Performance, all spelled out. That's my speaking, training, consulting website. If you're looking for comedy, it's teresahkcomedy.com. You'll find me there. And then there's a third thing. And Jane, I gotta pull you into this. I do a thing, it's called Meet the Author PC, meettheauthorpc.com. At the Pyramid Club in Philadelphia, wonderful business club, we invite authors to come and join us and talk about their thought leadership. We do some things on Zoom, and we do some things in person at the Pyramid Club, which you might even be able to. Nah, you can't see it behind me. Pyramid Club is not far from where I am right now. But either of those websites, you'll be able to find me. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, send me a LinkedIn connection request. I'm happy to connect and have a little conversation. But Jane, thank you so much for
Oh,
this
goodness.
opportunity.
I've loved it, Teresa. I'm so glad to get to know you. I can't wait to hug you when we get to Influence next year. Hope you're going. That's
I
our local
absolutely
NSA
will.
thing. Yeah. And we've got some more fun things in the hopper when it comes to more NSA times. And I guess you were on the laugh crowd that we're on that Facebook page and we all share different things. But gosh, I'm just so glad you were available. I told myself, I said, man, I gotta get Theresa on here, although I can't pronounce her name.
It's all right.
But
You can say HK. It's all good.
thank you, darling. Thank you so much. This has been incredible. I've loved it. And I'm
Big
sure
hug.
everybody's gonna big hug. I love the ring. Love the ring. I about need my sunglasses on. Super. Loved it.